Tired of waiting years for perennials to fill out and bloom? Stop planting slow growers. These 10 fast-growing perennials explode with growth in their first season, filling containers beautifully and blooming abundantly from year one. No more staring at tiny plants, wondering if they'll ever amount to anything. These vigorous perennials deliver instant impact and come back even bigger every year after that. Before we dive into these rapid growth champions, hit that like button if you want container gardens that look amazing this year, not 3 years from now. Subscribe to this channel for plant selections that deliver fast results and big impact. And ring that notification bell so you never miss our container gardening guides. Your instant container garden starts right now. Alright, let's get into these 10 fast-growing perennials that transform containers immediately. Here's the frustration with most perennial container gardening advice. They recommend slow-growing plants that take 3 to 5 years to reach mature size. You plant a tiny hosta or a small daylily, and it sits there looking pathetic for seasons while you wait for it to fill the container. That's not instant gratification, that's delayed disappointment. But certain perennials grow fast. Really fast. They fill containers in a single season, bloom prolifically in year 1, and return even more impressive in year 2. These are vigorous growers with naturally aggressive habits that work against you in garden beds, but work perfectly in containers where their growth is contained and controlled. The perennials I'm sharing today all share 3 characteristics. They establish quickly from small starts, they reach substantial size in their first growing season, and they bloom or provide dramatic foliage impact within months of planting. These aren't wimpy tentative plants. These are bold, confident growers that deliver the lush, abundant look you want immediately. So let's break down each plant, what makes it grow so fast, how to maximize that growth in containers, and what you need to know to keep them thriving year after year. Plant number 1, Russian Sage, the silver blue speed demon. Russian sage is a woody perennial that grows incredibly fast, reaching its full mature size of 2 to 3 feet tall and wide in a single season. Plant it in spring, and by midsummer you'll have a substantial, flowering specimen that looks like it's been there for years. This plant has silvery gray foliage and airy spikes of lavender blue flowers from midsummer through fall. The entire plant is aromatic, releasing a pleasant sage-like scent when touched. The light, airy texture contrasts beautifully with bold-leaved perennials in mixed containers. Russian sage thrives in full sun and heat that would stress other perennials. It's extremely drought-tolerant once established, making it perfect for containers that dry out quickly. It handles neglect, poor soil, and tough conditions without complaint. Growing tips for maximum growth: plant in containers at least 14 to 16 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Use well-draining potting mix, ideally cactus mix or regular mix amended with extra perlite. Water regularly the first month to establish roots, then reduce to weekly or less. Russian sage prefers lean conditions, so avoid heavy fertilization which causes floppy growth. In early spring before new growth starts, cut the entire plant back to 6 to 8 inches above the soil line. This forces dense, bushy new growth from the base and prevents legginess. Key benefit: Russian sage provides months of color with zero deadheading or maintenance. The flowers attract pollinators constantly, and the silvery foliage provides a neutral backdrop that makes other colors pop. It's also deer-resistant, rabbit-resistant, and virtually pest-free. Caution: Russian sage needs full sun, at least 6 hours daily. In shade, it becomes weak, sparse, and flops over. It also must have excellent drainage. In heavy, waterlogged soil or containers without drainage, it rots quickly, and while it grows fast, it's technically a woody subshrub, so the base becomes woody over time. This is normal and doesn't affect performance. Plant number 2, Shasta Daisy, the classic fast bloomer. Shasta daisies establish quickly and bloom prolifically in their first season, producing masses of classic white daisies with yellow centers from early summer through fall. They grow rapidly, forming substantial clumps 12 to 24 inches tall and wide within a single growing season. Modern compact varieties like Becky, Amazing Daisies series, or Snow Lady are perfect for containers. They stay manageable while producing abundant flowers on sturdy stems that don't require staking. Growing tips for maximum growth: plant in containers at least 12 inches in diameter filled with rich, well-draining potting mix. Shasta daisies prefer full sun but tolerate part shade, though flowering decreases with less light. Water consistently to keep soil evenly moist, especially during blooming. Fertilize monthly during the growing season with balanced liquid fertilizer to support continuous blooming. Deadhead spent flowers regularly to encourage prolonged flowering. Simply snap off faded blooms at their base, and the plant will produce more. Key benefit: Shasta daisies provide that classic cottage garden look with minimal effort. They're excellent cut flowers, lasting over a week in vases. The continuous bloom from early summer through fall means months of color. And they're beginner-friendly, tolerating mistakes and bouncing back from neglect. Caution: Shasta daisies can be short-lived, especially in hot, humid climates or heavy soil. Most plants last 3 to 5 years before declining. Plan to divide and refresh every few years. They're also prone to leaf spot diseases in humid conditions, causing brown spotting on foliage. Avoid overhead watering and provide good air circulation. If disease becomes severe, cut plants back to the ground, and they'll regrow with fresh foliage. Plant number 3. Catmint, the billowing lavender blue cloud. Catmint is one of the fastest growing, most reliable perennials for containers. It forms billowing mounds of aromatic gray-green foliage covered in spikes of lavender blue flowers from late spring through fall. Plants establish quickly and reach full size, 18 to 24 inches tall and wide, in their first season. Compact varieties like Walker's Low, actually 18 inches tall despite the name, or Cat's Meow are perfect for containers. They bloom non-stop without deadheading, though shearing once after the first bloom flush encourages even more flowers. Growing tips for maximum growth: plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Catmint prefers full sun but tolerates part shade. Use well-draining potting mix and avoid overwatering. Catmint is drought-tolerant once established and actually performs better in lean conditions than rich, heavily fertilized soil. After the first major bloom flush in early summer, shear the entire plant back by 1/3. This removes spent flowers and forces dense, bushy regrowth with a strong rebloom in late summer and fall. Key benefit: catmint is genuinely low maintenance. It blooms for months without deadheading, handles heat and drought, resists pests and diseases, and is deer and rabbit resistant. The aromatic foliage smells pleasant to humans but repels many pests, and it's a pollinator magnet, attracting bees and butterflies constantly. Caution: cats love catmint, rolling in it and sometimes damaging plants. If you have cats, protect young plants with chicken wire cages until they're well established. Also, catmint can become floppy in rich soil or with too much water. For compact growth, use lean soil and water sparingly once established. Finally, despite the common name, catmint is not the same as catnip, though cats enjoy both. Plant number 4. Black-eyed Susan, the native fast grower. Black-eyed Susans are North American native perennials that grow fast, tolerate tough conditions, and bloom abundantly from midsummer through fall. They establish quickly, forming substantial clumps 2 to 3 feet tall and wide in their first season, covered in cheerful golden yellow flowers with dark centers. Compact varieties like Little Gold Star, American Gold Rush, or Tiger Eye are bred specifically for containers, staying under 2 feet tall while producing dozens of flowers. Growing tips for maximum growth: plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter filled with well-draining potting mix. Black-eyed Susans thrive in full sun and heat, blooming most prolifically with 6 or more hours of direct sun daily. They're drought-tolerant once established, but bloom better with consistent moisture. Fertilize lightly monthly during the growing season. Heavy fertilization causes excessive foliage and floppy growth. Deadheading isn't necessary for continuous bloom with modern varieties, but removing spent flowers improves appearance and prevents excessive self-seeding. Key benefit: black-eyed Susans provide bright, cheerful color during the hottest part of summer when many perennials slow down. They're native plants that support local pollinators and wildlife, attracting butterflies, bees, and birds that eat the seeds. They're also extremely low maintenance and tolerant of neglect, heat, drought, and poor soil. Caution: black-eyed Susans self-seed prolifically. In containers, this means seedlings pop up in neighboring pots or wherever wind carries seeds. Simply pull unwanted seedlings. The plants can also suffer from powdery mildew in humid conditions with poor air circulation. Choose mildew-resistant varieties and ensure containers have adequate spacing for airflow. Finally, black-eyed Susans are considered short-lived perennials, typically lasting 3 to 5 years before declining. Divide every few years to refresh plants. Plant number 5, Tickseed, coreopsis, the continuous yellow bloomer. Tickseed, also called coreopsis, is a native perennial that establishes quickly and blooms non-stop from late spring through fall. Modern varieties are bred for continuous flowering without deadheading, and they form neat mounds 12 to 18 inches tall and wide in their first season. Varieties like Moonbeam, Zagreb, or Leading Lady series are perfect for containers. They produce masses of daisy-like flowers in shades of yellow, gold, pink, or bicolor depending on the variety. Growing tips for maximum growth. Plant in containers at least 10 to 12 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Tickseed thrives in full sun and heat. Use well-draining potting mix and avoid heavy, moisture-retentive soils. Water moderately once established. Tickseed is drought-tolerant and actually prefers drier conditions over constant moisture. Fertilize lightly or not at all. Tickseed grows in lean, poor soil, and excessive fertilization causes weak, floppy growth with fewer flowers. If plants become sparse or open-centered mid-season, shear back by 1/3 to encourage dense regrowth and renewed flowering. Key benefit: Tickseed is among the longest blooming perennials, providing color for 4 to 5 months with zero deadheading. It's heat-tolerant, drought-tolerant, pest-free, disease-free, and deer-resistant. The fine foliage provides delicate texture that contrasts beautifully with bold-leaved plants. And it's native, supporting pollinators and beneficial insects. Caution: Tickseed can be short-lived in heavy, wet soil or humid climates. Good drainage is essential for longevity. Most plants last 5 to 7 years before declining, but they're easy to replace or propagate by division. Also, while modern varieties are bred for continuous bloom, some older varieties require deadheading to keep flowering. Stick with newer cultivars for truly low-maintenance performance. Plant number 6, Salvia, the vertical color. Spike. Perennial salvias establish quickly and produce tall spikes of tubular flowers from late spring through fall. They grow rapidly, forming substantial clumps 18 to 30 inches tall depending on variety, and bloom so profusely that foliage is often hidden beneath flowers. Compact varieties like May Night, Caradonna, or Marcus are perfect for containers. They produce deep purple-blue flower spikes that attract hummingbirds and butterflies constantly. Pink, white, and bicolor varieties are also available. Growing tips for maximum growth. Plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Salvias thrive in full sun and heat. Use well-draining potting mix, preferably on the lean side. Avoid heavy fertilization, which causes lush foliage and reduced flowering. Water moderately. Salvias are drought-tolerant once established and prefer drier conditions. After the first bloom flush, cut flower stems back to basal foliage to encourage rebloom. This mid-season haircut produces bushier growth and a strong fall flowering. Key benefit: salvias bloom for months with minimal maintenance. They're heat-tolerant, drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and rabbit-resistant. The aromatic foliage has a pleasant scent and naturally repels pests. And they're pollinator magnets, bringing constant wildlife activity to your containers. Caution: salvias require excellent drainage and hate wet feet. Overwatering or poorly draining soil causes root rot that kills plants quickly. Always use containers with drainage holes and avoid saucers that collect standing water. Also, not all salvias are equally cold hardy. Salvia nemorosa types are hardy to zone 4, but some species like Salvia guaranitica are only hardy to zone 7 or 8. Check hardiness before purchasing. Plant number 7, Daylily, the foolproof fast filler. Daylilies establish incredibly fast, forming substantial clumps of strappy foliage within their first season. While they're grown primarily for their trumpet-shaped flowers in every color except true blue, the foliage alone provides attractive texture even when plants aren't blooming. Compact varieties bred for containers like Stella de Oro, Happy Returns, or Pardon Me stay under 2 feet tall and bloom prolifically, often reblooming multiple times throughout summer and fall. Growing tips for maximum growth: plant in containers at least 14 to 16 inches in diameter filled with rich, well-draining potting mix. Daylilies thrive in full sun to part shade, though flowering is best with at least 6 hours of sun. Water consistently during the growing season to support rapid growth and abundant flowering. Fertilize monthly with balanced liquid fertilizer. Daylilies are heavy feeders and deplete container soil quickly. Deadheading isn't necessary but improves appearance and may encourage additional blooms with reblooming varieties. Key benefit: daylilies are genuinely indestructible. They tolerate heat, cold, drought, poor soil, and neglect that would kill pickier perennials. Each flower lasts only one day, but established plants produce dozens of buds, blooming for weeks or months with reblooming varieties. They're also completely pest and disease-free in most regions. Caution: daylilies multiply rapidly, becoming root-bound in containers within 3 to 4 years. Plan to divide every few seasons, splitting the clump into multiple plants, refreshing the soil, and replanting. This rejuvenates plants and gives you extras for more containers. Also, daylilies can suffer from spring sickness, yellowing foliage in early spring, in some climates. This is usually temporary and resolves as temperatures warm. Plant number 8, Sedum. The succulent speed. Grower upright sedums like Autumn Joy or Matrona are succulent perennials that establish quickly and grow rapidly, forming substantial clumps 18 to 24 inches tall and wide in their first season. They have thick, fleshy leaves and produce flat clusters of pink or red flowers in late summer and fall. The flowers attract pollinators in droves, and the dried seed heads persist through winter, providing four-season interest. The foliage is attractive from spring through fall, and the plant requires virtually no maintenance. Growing tips for maximum growth. Plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Use cactus mix or regular potting soil amended with extra perlite or sand. Sedums thrive in full sun and heat. Water sparingly once established. Sedums store water in their leaves and tolerate drought better than almost any flowering perennial. Fertilize lightly once or twice during the growing season, or skip it entirely. Sedums prefer lean conditions, and excessive fertilization causes weak, floppy growth. No deadheading or pruning is needed until spring, when you cut old growth to the ground before new growth emerges. Key benefit: sedums are perfect for hot, sunny containers where other perennials struggle. They're drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, pest-free, disease-free, and deer-resistant. They provide multi-season interest with attractive foliage, late-season flowers, and winter structure. And they're genuinely zero maintenance beyond an annual spring cutback. Caution: sedums absolutely require full sun and excellent drainage. In shade or wet soil, they become leggy, weak, and flop open in the center. Use containers with large drainage holes and lean soil. Also, sedum stems can snap under the weight of heavy flower heads, especially after rain. For upright growth, avoid over-fertilizing, which creates lush but weak stems. Plant number 9, Yarrow, the flat-topped color blast. Yarrow is a fast-growing perennial with ferny, aromatic foliage and flat-topped flower clusters in shades of yellow, gold, red, pink, or white. It establishes quickly, forming substantial clumps 2 to 3 feet tall and wide in the first season, and blooms from early summer through fall. Compact varieties like Little Moonshine or Tutti Frutti series are perfect for containers, staying under 2 feet tall while producing abundant flowers. Growing tips for maximum growth. Plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter with excellent drainage. Yarrow thrives in full sun and heat, performing best with 6 or more hours of direct sun. Use well-draining potting mix and avoid heavy, moisture-retentive soil. Water moderately. Yarrow is drought-tolerant once established and actually declines in overly moist conditions. Fertilize lightly or not at all. Yarrow grows naturally in poor, lean soil, and excessive fertilization causes weak, floppy growth that requires staking. Deadhead spent flower clusters to encourage continuous blooming and prevent excessive self-seeding. Simply cut stems back to basal foliage when flowers fade. Key benefit: Yarrow is incredibly tough, tolerating heat, drought, poor soil, and neglect. It blooms for months, attracts pollinators, and makes excellent cut flowers that last over a week in vases. The aromatic foliage has a pleasant scent and naturally repels pests. And it's deer-resistant and rabbit-resistant. Caution: Yarrow can be aggressive and spread rapidly in garden beds, but in containers, this vigor is an asset, filling pots quickly. Some varieties self-seed prolifically, deadhead to prevent seedlings in neighboring containers. Also, Yarrow can cause skin irritation in sensitive individuals. Wear gloves when handling if you have sensitive skin. Plant number 10. Ornamental grasses. The texture speed. Champions, ornamental grasses establish quickly and grow rapidly, providing fine texture, movement, and multi-season interest. Compact varieties like dwarf fountain grass, blue fescue, or Japanese forest grass form substantial clumps within their first season and only get better in subsequent years. Grasses offer distinct foliage colors from blue to green to gold to burgundy, and many produce feathery plumes in summer or fall. The foliage changes color with seasons, often turning gold, bronze, or burgundy in fall, and the dried foliage provides winter structure. Growing tips for maximum growth: choose compact varieties specifically bred for containers. Full-sized grasses grow massive and quickly outgrow pots. Plant in containers at least 12 to 14 inches in diameter filled with well-draining potting mix. Most grasses thrive in full sun, though some like Japanese forest grass prefer part shade. Water consistently during establishment, then reduce frequency once plants are growing vigorously. Fertilize monthly during the growing season to support rapid growth. Cut grasses back to 3 to 4 inches in early spring before new growth emerges. This annual maintenance takes minutes and keeps grasses looking tidy. Key benefit: grasses provide movement and sound in container gardens, swaying and rustling in the breeze. They add textural contrast to flowering perennials and foliage plants. They're low maintenance, requiring only one annual cutback, and they're virtually pest and disease-free. And they're cold hardy, surviving winters in containers in most zones with minimal protection. Caution: choose truly compact varieties. Full-sized grasses reach 6 to 8 feet tall and overwhelm containers within 2 years. Look for words like dwarf, compact, or small in variety names. Also, grasses are deciduous, dying back in fall. The dried foliage provides winter interest, but if you prefer year-round color, pair grasses with evergreen perennials. Finally, some grasses self-seed aggressively. Choose sterile or non-seeding varieties if this concerns you. And there you have it, 10 fast-growing perennials that fill containers beautifully in their first season and return even bigger every year after. No more waiting years for tiny plants to mature. These vigorous growers deliver instant impact and lasting beauty. Thanks so much for watching this fast-growth container guide. If this video opened your eyes to fast-growing perennials that actually deliver immediate results, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more container gardening strategies that create beautiful displays without the endless waiting. Comment below and tell me which fast grower you'll try first. I'll see you in the next video with even more container success secrets. Happy planting!